About a month ago, I put up a video called Creek on the Rise. Well, it's been raining for 3 days steadily. Not thunderstorms, just soaking rains. And here's what we got. This creek is raging again. Right down in there, there's a big rock you can see normally. And we'll kind of walk down this creek and kind of take a look-see. The creek is kind of backed up into this part. Normally right where those trees are, you can just walk right on down through here. But that's kind of gone underwater. And maybe you can see it. There's some water coming off of the bank over there. All right, so I'm at a different spot here on the creek, and this water is really rolling. And again, right out there is where you can normally walk. And up there in the summertime, you can just walk across. You can just walk across the creek. This is really white water rafting type water. Although I wouldn't want to be in this water with anything. To get down to these different spots in the creek, instead of walking along the creek bank, I have to come up here in one of my hay fields. But right here's another spot, and I think that I'm about ready to step in it. I think the water is going to continue to rise. And what I've said before on one of the other videos is that unlike the Midwest, and I may be speaking out of turn because I haven't been to a flood in the Midwest. I just see what I see on TV. But the waters in these mountains, and you get on into West Virginia, they have nowhere to go except down these mountains and into these creeks. And so because of that, they rise pretty quickly. Now this one has taken a few days to rise. It's not like we had 2 or 3 inches and a major thunderstorm cell that surprised everybody. We've just had rain continuously, gentle rain, a little more heavy rain, but nothing that's really tearing buildings down with the wind and things like that comes with the thunderstorm. But the ground is saturated, and so now the water has nowhere to go except run off and run into these streams. It's a lot of water rolling down through here. And right here where I'm standing, there's really no creek bank. The bank where you can walk. The bank kind of comes out and then drops right off. And typically right out in here, this water is very still. It's just very, very still. And the rapids are on back where we've been. Here's another spot. And a little hard to see with the leaves that come out on the trees, but you can see, the water's high enough or the leaves are low enough that they're dragging in the water. It's got a little ways to come, or actually a long ways to come, several feet to get up into this field, and then to get up on that crown right there. If it gets that high, we're all in trouble in this area. And I don't know that it ever does. I've never known it. I've never known the water to cross up into that field like that. And I never heard my dad talk about it or any of my other relatives. There's another spot over there. You can see the water rolling off that hill. And that water rolling in is indicative, again, of how the flood and the high water comes in these mountains. It has nowhere to go. There's no flat land for that water to spread out on, you know, at a depth of 1 or 2 feet or 6 inches or something like that. It comes straight off these mountains and into these creeks, and then this creek pours into a river that gets water from another creek and another, maybe another river that's smaller, and next thing you know, we got high water. And I've mentioned it before, sometimes the rain quits and the sun comes out, and the next day the water is even higher, because it takes time for that water to get out of the far mountains down to these creeks. And over in West Virginia, in some of those mountain towns, sometimes they'll see flooding with clear blue skies the next day as the rivers swell and the creeks swell as the water rolls out of the mountains from upstream. So right down in here, the creek bed is over there. But nonetheless, the water is rolling in down along this little bank on out in that area, and it's backed up into this spot. This whole spot right where my hand is moving, typically we would bush hog in there with a tractor, but that's kind of gone underwater. There's a little island, if you will, a little strip right across there, and water flows on both sides of it. But if it gets up too much more, that little strip will go underwater, and the water is really being divided right up there at the point. A lot of turbulence. My only concern is that back beyond where I'm pointing to, I've got a field, a hay field, where it's kind of a low ground there, and sometimes that water that's channeling down through there, it'll channel over into the field. There's a kind of a mound of rocks that make a wall that go like that on the side of that field, and not that it would keep water out, but nonetheless there's some low spot over there where water collects, and we'll go take a look, see at that next. So this field right here is kind of lower in here, and there have been times where the water has came like right down through that field, just like that. And that's not the case today, although you can see the water coming through right on the it's hard to see for the vegetation, but there's a little bit of a rock wall, if you will. It's a pile of rocks that just kind of extend up the edge of the field. But you can see right in here, the water is backed up and puddling right in this low place here. So like a little pond with grass growing out of it. And it may or may not kill the grass. Typically, the water drains off really quickly, and you know, we'll see. So I'm back where we started this video, and again, there's a great big rock right down there, and so we'll be done with this for today. And just as I mentioned, as quickly as the water can rise during a thunderstorm, this event is more about water steadily raining on the ground over a period of 2 to 3 days. And it's not through. It's starting to rain again now. I can feel the mist, and it's supposed to do that end of the night and maybe into tomorrow. I can't remember from the weather forecast. But as quickly as these streams can fill up, they'll go back down just as quick. A couple of days, and you'd never know that there was a high water in here unless you could just noted the debris. So this is where we'll kind of leave it, and thanks for watching.